Hey, Julie, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been a really super busy month so far. I've taken a bunch of older canvases that have been sitting around our upstairs loft area for at least a year and have done some really nice paintings on them. One of them most recently was a 48 by 36 diptych, so it's really going to be 72, 72 wide and 36 high. And it came out terrific. I also made it one of my big goals this month to start, doing another gallery campaign. And I added some galleries to my spreadsheet that I maintain, as potentials. And
Right.
I started with the ones that don't really want a packet submission, but they want an email submission. And of course, they're all different. So it took basically a day to do three of them. It was a lot of administrative busy work getting that together. But I did
Yeah.
hear back from one of them in a favorable way. But they it sounds like they put people in shows initially to see how their work is, how the work plays out.
Hmm.
So they have space starting in 2024, so that may pan out into something. And I kind of
Yeah.
took a new approach geographically, given the high cost of shipping and things being damaged in transit. So
Yeah.
I'm extended, I circumscribed the search to places that we could drive to in a day or a day and a half, which is a lot of locations. So it's plenty to choose from. And then I had an interesting message from a gallery owner here in Santa Fe, very, very interested in my work. I went down on Sunday to meet with him and
Hmm.
took my spouse with me. And it turns out he likes both of our work. He's taking over this gallery from the current owner who's
Wow.
hiring, and he's going to change the whole concept and format, the whole physicality of it. So that can become an interesting proposition. But the next step is going to be for him to come for a studio visit, which hopefully will happen in the next week or so. And he's going to be doing this starting in May. So that's
Wow.
coming up. So yeah, so that,
That's real.
that dropped out of nowhere, basically.
Yeah. Well, that's super exciting. You never really know who's watching
No,
you or viewing your work.
no. And he said, I've watched your work for a long time and I've liked it, but he never commented that I can remember, never showed his face or anything.
He didn't
So
give you a like
didn't give,
ever?
no, not that I can remember. So the point being, you don't know. And the other point being, there's always a surprise around every corner. If you're feeling like, oh, I'm no good, or oh, I don't have enough of this, that, or the other, then all of a sudden something happens to shake you out of that every time.
Yeah, that's so true. And you just have to keep going. And so
Right.
your experience in a Santa Fe gallery, I had the opposite experience where in the recession of '08, I left a Santa Fe gallery. Things were not going well. They were going to
No,
close. So you had to,
get your
rescue your
stuff.
work and get
Right.
out. But a new owner came in and
Mhm.
totally redid it. And they
Right.
didn't want to work with the previous artist. So it sounds like that's what's happening with
Yes.
this situation.
I think that in large part that's true. I think he's reaching out to a lot of artists that they don't currently show, and he's just going to have a whole another program happening. And the
Yeah.
location is unparalleled. It's right on the plaza, right there. So it gets a huge amount of foot traffic.
Oh,
And of
that
course,
sounds so exciting.
the business has been operational for a number of years, so there's a big client base built up too. So we'll
Hmm.
see how that pans out. But Kat, what about you? I know you've been doing a lot of shows, which are exhausting. You know,
Yeah, I think my word for February is exhaustion, but I've really been focusing on ideas and art making and thinking about how artists, create series and how we make our work. And I've been working in two series for a long time, either a purely non-objective series or an nature-based abstraction series. And I go back and forth. And within each series, I always think the two series are completely different. But I'm wrong about that. So
you
if
are wrong
you
about that.
yeah, so if you put your series together on a sheet of paper, like let's say you do three paintings from one series and three paintings from another, and you print it out in black and white. So then you can just see the values and the mark making. You'll see, I did that for myself and I realized, oh my God, I can't even tell the difference all that much between one series and another because it's the same hand,
The same
right?
hand.
It's the same mark making, it's the same hand. And I found also, I get ideas. I think as an artist, it's better to take a concept or an idea and go deep with it rather
Mhm.
than wide. So by
Right.
wide, I mean that you're trying to do everything. You're trying to paint um, boats and figures and abstracts and landscapes and flower pots. And, so that's
Mhm.
going wide where you're doing a little bit of everything. But I
Mhm.
think it's better to take one thing and then go deep.
Mhm.
So if it's abstract, are you a circle person? Are you an angular mark making person? Are you a big shape person? Whatever you
Right.
are, how do you push that envelope deeper and twist it and turn it and make it more and more interesting? And how can you take that concept and stretch it to the max?
Mhm.
So I've had ideas around both of my series that um, aren't exactly in line with what I had been doing. And I've been trying them because I've decided that if I have an urge to try something, that I need to honor that and just do it. And so I've done that. And I, I'm all the while thinking that it's so different. But then if you look at everything in black and white, it's just
Mhm.
a tiny bit different. It's just a
Right.
little bit of a stepping out. And so I call these pieces stepping out paintings, where you're doing something just a little bit different, trying something new.
Mhm.
And I think that it's important to do these paintings and not just keep the idea or the urge inside of you. I think it's better to get it out into the world, onto the canvas so you can see it. And some of those new things that you're trying end up showing up in later works. It's like it's in you, but it's not quite ready
To
to,
come out.
to totally be birthed.
Yeah.
So for me, I've been really kind of trying to watch myself as an observer. Like, what am I doing in the studio? What am I drawn to? And I'm just trying to really paint authentically and not worry about, oh, is this exactly going to work with this series or that
Mhm.
series? And so that's been my quest for this month, is to just try to really do what I'm feeling inside rather than, considering and worrying about, does it fit into one category or another?
Mhm. Well, I agree. The last few paintings I've done, they could fit into multiple categories or none at all. And I haven't decided that yet. I really liked them and
Yeah.
they're going to stay the way they are. And, I'll figure that out. Or I guess toward the end of 2022 and maybe into January, I was like fixated on blue and green, which is
Mm-hmm.
very uncharacteristic for me. And I did about, I don't know, 6 or 8 or 9 paintings, of which 6 are keepers. And that definitely made a series based on palette for sure, because it was different than everything else I had. But this more recent work, it's more neutral, and I'm not sure where it fits. And maybe it'll make its own series in the fullness of time. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in the meantime, they're great pieces, and I'll just keep doing the next thing, whatever that happens to be, and
Right. I
see
think
where it lands.
yeah, you have to just keep going and
Mhm.
let it happen naturally. And then the other thing that I've come across this month is that I'm doing several different commissions. And I had a friend call me out of the blue, somebody I've known for a long time. She's an artist and she lives about an hour from me. And she had somebody come to her art open studio event, and that person that came was holding in her hand a sheet of paper, which was a printout of one of my paintings from my website.
Wow.
And she approached my friend and said, can you do something in this palette that looks like this? And my friend, and it was in black, it was a black and white printout. And
Oh my God.
my friend said, I recognize that work. That's Cat Tesla's work. And the lady
Uh-huh.
said, yeah, it is. It is. I really like her work.
Wow.
And my friend said, well, she's actually a friend of mine. And I'm not going to work in her palette or her
Uh-huh.
style. You need to talk to her.
Right.
And the lady's response was, well, I think her paintings are too expensive and I don't want to pay
Oh
her
my.
price. So I had a great conversation with my friend yesterday about this.
Uh-huh.
And it turns out this lady is on my email list. And, the whole thing just got kind of weird. So my friend called this person
Uh-huh.
and gave her my contact information. So I've reached out to her today and
Uh-huh.
said, I'd be happy to discuss, what you're looking for. And,
Right.
at the end of the day, um, I do payment plans. We can work
Uh-huh.
something out
Right.
price wise or size wise to make it fit
Mhm.
her budget. But I think that collectors really don't understand that you don't just go to another artist and say, hey, can
Right.
you copy this? Um, I actually had, years ago when I first started, somebody came into my studio very much the same way and said, I love this other artist's work. Can you do something like it? And I said, no, that's
Mhm.
called stealing.
Right.
That's
Right.
called theft. And,
Yeah.
so collectors, I don't know, completely understand what they're saying or what they're asking. But my
Right.
friend was just appalled.
I'm appalled. I mean, I can't
And
believe it.
and I was appalled. Not I wasn't totally surprised, only because of this situation that I had experienced myself, like
Mhm.
20 years ago. So,
Wow.
I don't know if I'll hear from her, but
Right.
I think, as artists, we're all in this together. And
Mhm.
so, you know, let's say my friend said, "Oh yeah, I'll do it."
Mhm.
Then she goes down this kind of scummy pathway.
Right.
And of course, it's not going to look exactly like what I would do. It would be her version of
Be
my
her
work.
version of it. Right.
And I think you have to be careful, because if you're somebody who does this or wants to do this, or wants to copy somebody else, I think you're always going to be just a second rate version of that other artist who's
Yeah, yeah, you have to
established.
be. I mean, you can
Yeah.
be inspired by people, and I think it's great to use other work as inspiration. It always comes out differently if you're just
Yeah.
thinking of it in the back of your head like that. You're not copying it, you know. But it also in today's world is a small world.
Yes.
And you guys live in the same within probably a 60-mile distance of each other or so.
Less than
If it's an
that.
hour away,
Yes.
less than that. And did this collector think that there was a possibility that you could know this other artist, which you in fact do? You know,
I don't
it's a
think she had a
small
clue.
community there.
Right. Well, and the fact of the matter is, after 26 years of doing this, I know a lot of artists.
Of course you do. You know, so that's pretty wild. That's pretty
Yeah.
wild. I would guess if you have kind of a conversation with this collector, it's going to be pretty awkward.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm hoping that she'll reach out. So I'm actually having an open studio event for my collectors tomorrow at my studio.
uh-huh.
It's the first one I'm doing in Florida. And even though my husband and I don't have the studio totally like we are
Right.
envisioning, we just decided to do it rather than wait,
Hmm.
because people have been asking to see my studio. And, I have
Right.
several collectors that are deciding on different things, and they kind of want to look at everything because they feel
Uh-huh.
like they want to make the best decision, or, that kind of thing.
Right.
So I've reached out to her and invited her, her to that event, although she would have gotten my e-blast about it,
Right.
so I don't know. I don't know if I'll hear from her, but I hope so. I think I I want to, I always think I'm the half glass full person. So I always like to think of the best of people. And I think that she probably didn't understand what she
What she
was
was really
asking.
asking. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think she was being malicious or anything like that. I think she just didn't really understand
Mhm.
what she was saying. So,
Right. Well, that's a new one, I haven't had that experience, but wow.
right.
Well, we'll
Yeah,
see what happens,
been
That's
an
all you can
interesting
do.
month for sure.
Right. Well, I guess we'll see everybody next month and report on our doings.
Definitely. I'll let you know what happens.
All right.